Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Kiddushin. We are up to Perek Aleph Mishnah Daled. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'elu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbayev Eliyahu ben Burcha Israel of Chana bad Miriam Sason ben Raya and Yoshua ben Shifra Menuchatam began Eden Amen and Le'avdir ben Chaim Lechaim v'derefua shelemav Daniel Shalom ben Rosa betor Shach Chole Israel. This Mishnah teaches how to acquire an animal. Movable objects, such as animals, cannot be acquired by simply paying for them. As we will learn in the next Mishnah, they do not belong to the buyer unless he performs some other act of kinyan. The Mishnah discusses three types of kinyan that can be used to acquire movable objects. Some of these methods are preferable over others. They are in order of preference. 1, the buyer lifts the object, what we call hagba'ah. 2, the buyer draws it near to himself, what we call mishicha. Or 3, the seller hands it over to the buyer, what we call misira. When a person holds something and lifts it up, he demonstrates that he owns it more clearly than if he draws it to himself. Drawing it near, in turn, shows that he owns it more clearly than if it is handed to him, and that's why the commentators list this as the order of preference. Now, as a rule, a person must always use the best kinyan that is normal to be used for that particular item. The Mishnah will explain which methods can be used for which type of animal, depending on what is normally used for that particular animal. The Mishnah begins, Be'ema gasa niknet b'msira. A large animal, such as a cow, horse, or donkey, can be acquired by handing it over. For example, the seller hands the animal's reins to the buyer, or the seller can take hold of anything attached to the animal, such as its hair, and hand it to the buyer, as the Rav explains based off the Gemara in Kiddushin, page 22b. V'adaka b'akba'a, but a small animal such as a sheep or goat can be acquired only by lifting, meaning the buyer lifts the animal. Now, whether an animal is considered large or small does not depend on the size of the actual animal, but on the average size of that type of animal. Therefore, a small cow is considered a large animal, while a large sheep is considered a small animal. In any event, since lifting is a better kinyan than handing over, small animals which are easily lifted can be acquired only in that way. However, large animals which are difficult to lift can be acquired even by handing them over. Divrei Rabbi Meir v'Rabbi Eliezer, these are the words of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Eliezer. Now, they can certainly be acquired by one of the better methods as well. For example, if a person manages to lift a cow hagba'ah, he acquires it that way. Again, in the opinion of Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Eliezer. A different opinion of Chachamim Omrim, but the sages say, Be'emat deka niknet b'mshicha, a small animal can also be acquired by drawing it near to oneself, meaning he draws the animal into his property, either by pulling it or by causing it to move in a less direct manner, such as calling to it or hitting it, as the Rav explains based off the Gemara in Kiddushin, page 22b, since it is often difficult to lift even a small animal, because small animals, the Rav explains, often resist being lifted by digging their hooves into the ground. Lifting is somewhat unusual. Therefore, it can be acquired even by drawing it near. According to the sages, it is not common to pick up small animals. Therefore, such animals can be acquired by drawing them near, which is the next best method and can be easily used for small animals. However, they cannot be acquired by handing them over misirah, because that is the weakest kinyan. And that is an Rabotai of Mishnah Daled. Mishnah A begins, Nechasim sheshlam achayut, real estate, land, or houses. Now, literally, the phrase means possessions that have responsibility, because real estate is referred to it in this way, because a person's real estate is responsible for, meaning it guarantees his financial obligations. For example, if he does not repay money he has borrowed, the lender can take that amount from the borrower's land, even if the borrower has already sold the land to someone else after the loan was made. That's why we call them nechasim shesham achrayut, possessions that have responsibility. So real estate, land, or houses, niknin bekesef, is acquired either through money, meaning the buyer pays the seller, ubishtar, through a document, the seller gives the buyer a document that says, my field is hereby acquired by you, or anything like that, ubechazaka, or through an act of ownership, meaning the buyer does an act showing that he owns the property. For example, he digs a hole in the property. This must be an act that improves the property. If he damages it, it is not a valid kinyan, as the Rambam discusses in Echot Mechira, chapter 1, halacha 8. V'shenem achayut But movable objects, literally possessions that have no responsibility, because movable objects are referred to in this way because people do not use them to guarantee loans, since the borrower can easily hide or destroy them. So movable property, movable objects, and non-niknin ela b'mshicha can be acquired only by physically taking possession of them, such as by drawing them close to oneself, or the commentators explain lifting them hakbah, or handing them over misira, whatever is the usual method for acquiring such objects. Now, in the following case, however, movable objects can be acquired by the methods used to acquire land. Nechasim shelam achrayut nikninim nechasim sheshlam achrayut. Movable property can be acquired together with real estate, bekesev ushtav chazakah, through paying money, giving a document, or performing an act of ownership, meaning if someone bought both land and movable items together, when he uses one of these methods to acquire the land, he automatically acquires the movable items as well. Now, since the Mishnah mentioned one law that involves land and movable objects together, the Mishnah cites another such law. If Reuven claims that Shimon owes him a movable object and Shimon denies it, there are certain situations in which Shimon must swear that he is telling the truth. For example, if Shimon admits that he owes part of the money, modeh b'miktzat, he must swear that he does not owe the rest, as the Mishnah says in Shavuot, chapter 6, Mishnah 1. However, if Reuven claims that he is owed real estate, Shimon never has to swear. The Mishnah teaches the law when Reuven claims both land and movable property. V'zokikin nechasim shelam achrayut et nechasim sheshlam achrayut lishava alehen. And movable property can make real estate subject to an obligation to swear about it. Meaning, if there is a claim against a person for both movable property and land, in a case where he is required to swear that he does not owe the movable property, he must also swear that he does not owe the land. Although a person usually does not have to swear about a claim regarding land, in this case, since he has to swear about the movable item anyway, he must swear about the land as well. This is based on the law that if a person is required to make an oath, the court can require him to make another oath as well, even if he would not otherwise have been required to make the second oath, what we call Gilgul Shvuah. And the Rav explains this law is learned from a verse in the Torah. And that is the Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.